welcome to Practical Chaos Podcast, where I am your host, Emily. I'm here to delve into all that bad advice we get with the best of intentions behind it. Just a small warning, there could be swears. All right, my friends, on today's episode, we are tackling if you can't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Now, this is something that is used now quite ironically. And this is because, so there's a lot going on when we talk about the if you can't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Like I was saying, it is used very ironically now. Like, I was looking it up just to see if I could find like where it came from or anything like that. I like to try and find that for you guys. And the only thing that I could find is it's in this thing. There's this thing called a meme dictionary, by the way, which I didn't even know was a thing. So if you're curious, there's a meme dictionary and it's there and ready. So what cracked me up though is it's essentially like all accountability for any action that you have is just gone when you say this. Because like I said, you're telling everyone, I am so entirely delightful that all the crazy negative shit I do is worth it and justified. So you've now just pre-justified yourself to act like a crazy bitch. Or a crazy bastard. Who the hell knows? I don't like to be gender specific here. Maybe you're a crazy they. How dare you, you crazy they. You're just so crazy doing your crazy self. But, oh, this is going to be one of them tangent episodes. I can tell already. So, like, just this accountability is now gone. So, for me, this is the stupidest saying of them all. I really don't like it because I am a firm believer in loving people through things. And I believe that I would like you to love me at my worst so I can love you at yours. This kind of goes along with the last episode that I did on love means never having to say you're sorry. Love is hard. It's not easy by any means. There's nothing easy about it. And when you sit there and you tell someone that if they can't love you when you're being an absolute shithead, then they don't deserve what you have to give them at all. And that just, to me, is just wrong. I just don't like that. It's just, I don't like it. I don't like it. So when we sit here and we look at this and we tell ourselves, you know, love me at my worst so I can love you at yours, which is what I would like to say, you know, that means forgiving people, but in your own time. But it also means giving love even when you feel that you didn't receive it. So it's being able to be that bigger person and say, I love you. I know you're having a rough time, and treat those people who are having a rough time. Maybe they're having a really bad mental health day, and treat them kind of like they have the flu. You know, what can I get for you? What can I do to make you feel better, sort of thing. But you also don't want to endure extra bad just for the tiny bit of good that might come out of it. Because if someone's sitting there and they're just awful to you, and they're just sitting here saying, well, if you can't love me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. Well, guess what, buddy? Your best never comes. Your best is a piece of shit, just like your worst, and I deserve better than that. And being able to sit here and say that, and to give that love and know when to give your love and how it's deserved, even, like I said, when you don't feel that you've received any love of similar quality for a little hot minute, but loving someone through their hard times, because the good times are around the corner. But you also have to be able to take a step back and say, you know, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore because I'm never getting what I need. And that all comes from that whole pour out of an empty cup thing that people say with your self-care. I really like, though, and I've done this for a couple friends for like wedding gifts, is I really love the analogy that your marriage is like a box. It's an empty box that you are given on the day that you get married, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best box in the whole world. Let's just throw a bunch of shit into this box. And so you throw love in the box, you throw passion, you throw all sorts of things in this box, but so does your partner, because that's where you're at in your relationship. So all these things are going into this box, and then when you're like, oh my gosh, I need to feel like something's romantic, you can take some romance out of the box because your partner put the romance in. Because guess what? This is an awesome box. We can put so much in this box. It holds so much things. All the things, if you will. And so you're sitting there putting all of these things into this box because, it's a fantastic love. Maybe you aren't married and you still got a box. Like, that's a pretty cool deal, man. You still got a box and you're not even that married? Like, cool beans for you. Like, that's awesome. And so that honeymoon, quote unquote honeymoon phase, you can't see my air quotes. I'll do them extra so they kind of come through the microphone. Did you get them? Did you get all my air quotes? Okay. So, that quote unquote honeymoon phase when nothing can go wrong and everything's the best and we're just feeling ourselves and we're feeling so good and we're so confident in what our relationship is. Well, that's because you're both putting in the same amount of work. You're putting in all these things to these boxes and you're like, yes, this is so awesome and I just love this so much. But eventually, you're going to reach in that box and reach for some romance, and it's not going to be there because your partner didn't have enough time to put the romance into the box. They didn't have enough mental stability or health or battery to be able to provide that for the box. So now you decide, well, I'll put the romance into the box. That's fine. And your partner takes the romance out the box. And then you decide you want some fun. So you go to reach for fun, and there's no fun in the box because your partner's busy at work and your partner is busy with all of their stuff that they do and trying to feel like a person in their own way. So they haven't had time to put fun in the box to give to you. So, well, I'll just put some fun in the box too. That's okay. That's not a big deal. And eventually you find that you might be the only one putting anything into this box. And if this box is completely empty all the time and there's only one person ever putting anything into it and the other person just takes and takes and takes and takes, then that is a completely unbalanced relationship. Now, this whole idea of a 50-50 relationship is also wrong as well. Relationships are 100-100. You have to give 100% all the time. But when your partner can't give 100%, you can pick up that slack. It's okay if you put romance in the box because it wasn't there, because it's something that you want. And maybe your partner puts fun in the box instead. That's okay to have different things that you contribute to this box that is your relationship. But it can't be one person all the time contributing everything. Because then, yes, you're loving this person at their worst. You're loving this person despite the fact that they're not giving you anything back for that one day that they put an itty-bitty Hershey Kiss-sized piece of romance in the box when you've been contributing king-size candy bars, I'm using a lot of analogies and metaphors and all good stuff here. But, it's something where you shouldn't keep this box when it's getting battered and beaten down because you're trying to tape it together and your partner just keeps crushing it every time they grab something out of it, just for that one time that they do put something in it. It needs to be as equal as it can be. Relationships aren't 100% equal in any means. It just doesn't happen. One of us is always going to be putting more forth than the other. That's just how it kind of works. But to be able to recognize that and recognize like, oh man, I'm going through a really bad mental health spot. So I know my husband right now is contributing a lot to this, marriage box that we have, and I'm going to have to step myself up. To be able to recognize that in yourself, I think is a really big thing. And that goes back to that episode of, love means never having to say you're sorry. No, love does mean having to say you're sorry. Like, hey, I'm so sorry that I just haven't been myself lately. I've been going through X, Y, Z. And then that forgiveness comes along too. Like, no, it's okay. I knew that you've been having a really tough week, so I decided to just take on a few extra things. I decided to put the baby to bed because I knew that you were really tired and I knew that you needed to take a nap, so I wanted to let you do that. Those are all different ways of saying I love you and being able to love someone through their worst without letting them take advantage of who you are as a person. A really good kind of example that I have of this is I, over the years, have gone through several different mental health problems as far as kind of getting used to who I am as a person again and getting used to who I am away from everything that I've known. Ooh, I just bumped my whole table. And getting used to everything that I've known and kind of taking all of that away. And so I've dealt with a series of depression over the years. And early on in my marriage, my husband just didn't get it. He didn't quite understand what this depression was, what depression was that I was talking about, and how it was more than just I'm sad. He just didn't really understand it. Now, did he sit there and try and understand? Well, yes, he tried, but it's really hard to understand something that you've never been through. No matter how hard you try, it just sometimes doesn't work. And so, my husband's trying his hardest, but eventually there comes a breaking point where he was like, in his own way, like, man, I just can't handle this right now. I don't understand what you're going through. I don't understand what's happening. And I was told quite blankly to just get over it. And now that hurt. That hurt my heart. It made me angry. It made me look, though, at what I was doing and what I was putting him through. Was I contributing anything to our relationship at that point? And the answer is no, not really. I was leaving a lot of it up to him and kind of holding him accountable for different things that I wasn't willing to be accountable for myself. So as much as it sucked and as much as I hated it and how angry it made me, it also made me realize that I was not giving any sort of my best. I was only giving my worst, and I wasn't willing to look at what I could do to give my best. And so that's one of those moments where, you're loving someone at their worst, but then years later, my husband dealt with his own mental illness, and he finally understood kind of what I was going through in his own way. And did it make our relationship stronger? Yes, because now we both understood what the other one was going through. But it also gave me a chance to do what he had been doing for me those years ago and love him through this mental illness that he was trying to get a grasp of and trying to understand, because it was just so new and different for him. The only difference was I had an idea of what he was going through. Now, I know you're listening to this and you're probably like, oh my gosh, this girl has so much to say. I have a lot of really strong feelings on telling people how and what to love through, as well as how and who to love. So everyone has their own way of how they do things and how they love, their significant other, and the different things that they're willing to tolerate in a relationship. And just because you're not necessarily willing to tolerate something doesn't mean that you should tell everyone else that they shouldn't. One person's breaking point is another person's push through moment, where they're like, I just got to push through this and it'll get better. And it does sometimes. But there are moments and times and different things that some people can get through and come out the other side with a healthy relationship, and other people can't. And that's kind of just how it goes, sadly. There's this whole idea that's set in stone that you should kind of just sit there and take it and hope that something gets better. But you do have to have a moment where you sit there and look at yourself and say, no, this isn't working. I need something to change for the better so that it's worth it for me to love you through these bad times, because I need something to be better. I need it to be better than a Hershey Kiss. I would really love a king-size candy bar, please. If you haven't noticed from the last couple of episodes, I really love food. And so I just love me some food, man. So I'm going to use these food analogies for as long as I can. All right. Now, one of the perspectives that I can bring that a lot of other people can't is I'm a military wife. Being a military wife and living a military life, but being a military wife, I get to experience a whole lot of things that other people will never understand. For a lot of people, their husband being gone for the weekend is catastrophic for them. How could they? And I'm like, oh, he's only gone for the weekend? Sweet. Do I miss him? Yeah, of course I miss him. But he's been gone longer, so a weekend's not going to kill me. And like I said, this is going to be full of all sorts of analogies this time. This could go around. But you can't sit there and use your struggles as a thermometer or barometer or whatever the hell you want to, whatever kind of meter you want to use it for, to gauge other people's struggles. Just because I understand that a weekend isn't a whole lot of time, and I know my husband's going to be back so much sooner than the time he was gone for 7-8 months, does not mean that I get to make fun of the person who is sad because their husband's gone for the weekend, just because I've been through worse. Now, this also gives me a different perspective in what I'm willing to tolerate in my relationship as well, because there's a lot of things my husband has no control over. My husband has no control over the fact of whether or not he's allowed to use his phone, when he's at these things. A lot of times it's either up to service and it's up to whether or not they're busy. When my husband was deployed, did he try and call me as often as he could? Well, of course he did. He missed me just like I missed him. But was he always able to? No. Due to time differences, was I always able to answer his phone calls? Sadly, no, and I did end up missing a few, which as a military wife is one of the most heartbreaking things that can happen to you. I only got to talk to my husband a couple of times on the phone while he was deployed, and that is just gut-wrenching. But I understand that he has no control over these things, and that's something I'm willing to tolerate in my relationship, is a lack of communication due to the fact that neither of us has control, due to the fact that I'm also willing to tolerate being alone for long periods of time. Becky down the street with Brad might not be able to tolerate that. He gave her a hot air balloon last time. In our last episode, he came up with a hot air balloon and was ready to roll with some diamonds in his pocket. She's not going to be okay if he's gone for more than a weekend at a time. But me, Emily, my husband being gone for more than a weekend at a time is kind of just a Tuesday. I find things to do, which I can talk about in another episode if you really want me to. But military life puts a huge strain on our relationships, and it's absolutely crazy just to think what sort of things you never thought you'd actually be able to or willing to live through, and then you do, and you're like, well, that wasn't as bad as I kind of thought it would be. Did it suck? Yes. But was it nearly as terrible as it could have been? No, not really. Could have been a whole lot worse. The whole of a military relationship is loving them at their worst and through the hardest times. They go and do this job, man or woman, it does not matter. They go and do this job and they're dealing with dumbasses day in and day out. There is somebody at work that is going to be a dumbass, and guess what? Your partner, for any reason whatsoever, is going to be the only person that has to deal with them that day. I don't know why. This is just how the military works. There's always a dumbass, and your partner is the only one that dealt with them. To everybody. Your partner might be somebody else's dumbass. I don't know. But that's just how it works. And so we do a lot of loving our partners through their worst and through the hardest times of our relationship, and being willing to accept those short, brief moments of good times. Those brief moments of best, if you will. And with some of that, when you're loving your partner through their worst, sometimes it takes it upon yourself to love yourself through your worst as well. It's being able to say, oh man, I know I'm really depressed, but I put my socks on today. And I haven't put socks on and I've needed to for a week. I brushed my teeth, I combed my hair. It's being able to say, yes, my husband's gone, but I'm going to get out of bed and I'm going to go to work and I'm going to do X, Y, Z. These are all things that you can do for yourself, and knowing that you can love yourself through the worst of anything. The last little bit that I have today, is going to lead into probably another episode that I will do sometime here in the future. You need to be able to celebrate what's actually the best. So this whole, love me at my worst because otherwise you don't deserve me at my best sort of thing. It's only your best if it's not something that just makes you an adult person. I'm sorry, your best is not taking out the trash without me having to ask you, because guess what? Adult people take out the trash. That is a mundane thing that just happens, and you are not going to get celebrated for taking out the trash. I will say thank you. I will do all of these things, but that doesn't make you any better than Joe Schmo down the street. Not that I'm saying you need to be better, but it doesn't set you apart from just an average guy who would live by himself and take out his own trash. So this kind of leads into good wife versus good husband. It takes a lot more, I feel, to be considered a good wife than it does to be considered a good husband. It's the same as being a good mom and a good dad. It takes so little for a man to be considered a good dad. Oh, he changed the baby's diaper. He's fantastic. No, he's a father and he did what he was supposed to do. You know, just like a husband. Oh, he cleaned the kitchen. Oh my gosh, that's just magnificent. Well, yeah, I really appreciated it, but he is a person and he lives here as well, so he is more than capable of doing that. And being able to recognize that, yes, while you appreciate it, the thought and action that's behind it, did he clean it because you asked him to? Did he clean it because he really wanted to do a favor? Because that's something that you do all the time. There's a lot of different things that can go into that. And the flip side is, you know, the reverse side of this is it takes so little to be considered a bad wife and a bad mother. Oh, you didn't do 8 crafts with your kid today? Well, I guess that's just, you know, some of us actually spend time with our kids. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Becky. You and Brad can go shove it right up your ass, okay? Because I don't really appreciate that. I'm sorry that my kid eats crayons, because that's just where he's at in his life. So we don't do a whole lot of crafts here, Becky. What we do is other things. We spend some time together. Maybe we make a muffin, something that he can actually eat. And then he eats the batter. But it's okay, because he'll survive. It's not bad. You know, and to be considered a bad wife, all you have to do is, especially stay-at-home versus working wife, the worst part about this is, because I've never been a stay-at-home mom. It's just not something that I've done just for myself. I did spend a little bit of time at home, but I wouldn't call myself a stay-at-home mom for that situation, because I was actively seeking work and not planning to, you know, stay home where I was at with my son, just because I needed to make money to have the lifestyle that my husband and I wanted and the things that we want for our son. Now, this is going to be said to stay-at-home moms as well as working moms. You have a stay-at-home mom. She's home all day. She's dealing with the kids. She's trying to clean up the house, but the kids just keep making a mess. She's probably cleaned the house 100 times. Husband comes home. Man, what have you done all day? Oh, thanks. Thanks. I appreciate that. And then you have the working wife who busts her ass all day at work, comes home, you know, maybe picks up the kids, comes home, and decides she doesn't really want to make dinner, so she's gonna, you know, it's leftovers for everyone. Well, why couldn't you make your husband a nice dinner? Why couldn't you clean up the house? I thought you were this magical working mom, crazy, awesome person. And like, we do so much judging of each other and what we expect to happen that we don't sit there and realize that we're just putting each other down, and we're taking all of these things that, guess what? Both of us get told it, but in a different way. Stay-at-home moms, more power to you, my friends, because my kid is a little terror monster, and I love him to death. But I also love having something for myself and being able to go to work and have that thing for myself and be successful outside of motherhood. And for you, your success comes from being that stay-at-home mom. That's your success with how your kids are raised, and you know, that's just how it is. And working moms, you know, more power to you as well. I know the struggle of this one all too well, and there's so much expected of us, and yet we have to fight so hard for things that come so easily to other people in the workplace, all because we are working moms. Especially, you know, when you move around like I do with military life, it can make it really hard to interview places because you want to talk about your kids, but at the same time, you don't want them to know, because what if they use that to judge you? Not that they would say that, because that's a lawsuit, blah, 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 good fun. But like, what if that's used to judge you and base your character? You know, it's really difficult one way or the other. And it sucks. It just really sucks sometimes, because we're all just doing the best that we can. And some people just don't see it as enough, which is why we need to love each other through our worst. Love your friends when they're being assholes. Love your friends when they're going through something shitty, and they're going to do the same for you. Otherwise, they might not be your friend. That's a whole other topic, you know. Just like happy wife, happy life is a whole other thing that we'll touch base on. Maybe I'll do a future episode, maybe a guest episode. Maybe. You can't see my beautiful beard stroking through the microphone, but it is pretty good. Pretty good. But all right, my friends, that is all I have for you today on our topic of if you can't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I really hope something here resonated with you. If it did, please feel free to leave me comments. I do answer every single one of them. Shoot me an email, practicalchaos@outlook.com, or feel free to leave me a review as well on iTunes, because those do say a lot about my podcast, and I would love to get some 5-star reviews. If you could and would, I would greatly appreciate that. Next week's episode is going to go a little bit away from relationships. The last 2 episodes I've done have both been kind of relationship related. This one is going to be, and first off, I do want to say these are all pieces of advice that I did find that are told to people. These are all things that people have been told and given as advice. Now, this one is never let your emotions show at work. So next week's episode is bound to be full of fun because I am a very emotional person for anybody who knows me. So this is bound to be a lot of fun, looking into it and trying to figure out what I want to talk about with you guys. If you have an idea for an episode, please feel free to message me, shoot me an email, visit my website, practicalchaospodcast.com, and go ahead and go there. You'll find all of my social media. I am on it every day, making sure I'm not missing any comments from you guys. So feel free to kind of shoot me a message there. Shoot me an email, leave me comments. Maybe your episode idea is going to turn into one of my episodes. And if it does, I will give you a shout out and I will give you the opportunity to introduce the episode as well. So I hope that you all enjoyed yourselves. Thank you so much for listening. As always, love ya. Toodles.